Hello, brothers and sisters. It's an interesting day. I kind of stumbled across Masonic writings and whatnot this weekend, so figured I'd give you kind of the non-biblical advice because, to a certain extent, understanding bad philosophy is sometimes as important as understanding good philosophy. So, in the Christian scriptures, the one thing to know about Christian scriptures, especially if you go past verse by verse parsing, which is what atheists and a lot of people use to try and say the Bible's not consistent, which it is, but the message, even from Christ, always referenced the Old Testament prophets and consistency. Same thing with Paul. When Paul gave his message, everything referenced, whether it be Isaiah, Jeremiah, Hosea, Zechariah, the prophecies were all consistent in Paul's writings as well. And that level of consistency is important for the average person, right? Like, understanding the harsher mechanics of what Jesus' death and everything else means for us. I mean, the simple thing is from the fall, there's no other way back to the Father unless the Father, through His Son, brought us back. There's no philosophical way for resurrection, right? There's more meaning there, but it's a progressive philosophy, right? Monotheism is a progressive philosophy. The Middle Eastern religions can understand polytheism, and quite frankly, if you do believe that the gods were out there, if one thing was known, they didn't work together, and there's constant warring and factions with them. So, needless to say, polytheism wasn't very good. Same thing goes for most types of things in the Masonic types of religion, and you see it consistent with Islam and a lot of what I'd call the destructive philosophies. These are the types of philosophies that aren't consistent, they change over time, and it basically abdicates to the newest reader. So in going through the Masonic logic, they were saying that, the further up you go, the more you have to know a lie that everybody else doesn't know, and they're the sheeple and you're the supreme power, right? So in essence, you just lie your way to the top. Surprise, surprise. And then you start thinking about the system, and the more I think about it philosophically, if you just keep doing that and that, I mean, the greatest lie you could have is just like Lucifer, that you could be like the Most High. So I guess at the top of the Freemason pyramid, be people who'd say they're more powerful than Lucifer, and then they are more powerful than the Most High. And then all of a sudden you have the Negan syndrome, where, like in Walking Dead, everybody just starts calling himself Negan. Sure, it's probably the same thing at the top of Freemasonry. It's just kind of the inevitable conclusion, right? If you just systematically just take it to the nth degree, what is the greatest lie? Right? So, needless to say, if you find yourself in a destructive philosophy, first things first, keep taking it further and further to understand its path to the wrong. And we see this in Islam. They have a practice called abrogation, and abrogation is different. As Christ fulfilled exactly what Isaiah and other people were doing, there's no change in the prophecy. What Muslims believe is a process of abrogation whereby the new refining overwrites the old. So technically, when their Mahdi comes, and they expect him to, and Isa to come back and take away all these bad Christians, which we'd call it our Antichrist, it would be the fulfillment in whatever this Mahdi creature is. We just know from Daniel, and we know he's going to declare himself greater than God and everything else. And you can get it from there. Now, people who follow the Masonic or other secret society type routes are ignoring a couple of basic logical principles, and I'll go through them right now. One is that there's not the mass following there. So, let's say you go to an average Catholic church and you ask them if the Pope declared them to war with any other religion, how many Catholics would do it? Just ask. Ask Islamic Church. I'm sure your mosque is going to give you a different thing, or they'll lie to you. They're pretty good at it. It's jihad. But go into secret societies. How many numbers do they control? Is there really enough wealth there? Or have they been deceived by their own lie, right? If you lie for enough time, what ends up happening is you get to a generation where your kids just are idiots. and I see it now. I've seen people who would probably be personified by a Masonic personality, only to find out that their kids are drug users and are incapable of advanced thought like they are. So what ends up happening? They die out. They run out of numbers, just like country clubs. We're watching it now. Millennial generation, the computer generation, is destroying it all. Not because I think any of us intended to. It's that we have a greater knowledge of opportunity cost and we go further and further to the X. So, in any case, you got to think about things from constructive and destructive logic. Constructive logic builds upon itself, stays consistent. Destructive logic doesn't. Destructive logic tries to break and divide. And I'll leave you on one because I said in earlier videos that I see the greatest 50-50 divides. And what this is important to is one of the largest thoughts of deconstructive philosophy, and that's the Hegelian Dialectic. And in the Hegelian Dialectic, what you do is you create two adverse scenarios to basically collide to present a new conclusion. For example, the political system in the United States is wrong. We got Democrats and Republicans. What do? You get two of the worst possible candidates you could. Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. Trump won, which, by the way, I'm happy Donald Trump won. But go past that, and you start looking at who does the media personify as a rightist or a leftist. And on the leftist, you have the Black Lives Matter campaigns where people are looting and rioting and stealing, and they're saying that that's great because it's for rights and everything else, except it's advocating for lawlessness, right? If it was a peaceful protest, it's one thing. If it's advocating lawlessness, it's allowing people to throw Molotov cocktails and saying, hey, that's great, they're fighting for their rights. It's lawlessness. On the right-hand side, instead of all of the normal centrists, like I'm even saying on the left, there's normal centrists there, they're advocating that it's the white supremacists and the crazy people in North Carolina who go and picket and riot and do that stuff, as if we're either all racist or Black Lives Matter candidates, right? It really isn't the truth. But it's an easy way to get people emotional and sided on one or the other. And I've seen people from my church youth group go and really take an advocated stance that the whole BLM thing is a true anti-race game. And you start looking at statistics, and you can say the statistics are wrong, but I say, well, look at how many murders happen in the ghetto versus not. Look at demographics. Yes, a demographic is worse than another. I hate to say it. But if you think I'm wrong, go to World Star Hip Hop. You know, I don't make this stuff up. Just watch first 10 videos. There's a culture difference, and it is what it is. But don't necessarily blame that the majority of cops do the minority of cops' work. Are there corrupt cops? Absolutely. Are there a lot of ghetto bad players in the ghetto? Yeah, there are. And they're not all black. They're white too. But needless to say, if you keep in that split and you believe really that strongly, they'll twist you to a new conclusion that we need a new government and one world ruler. But by the time that happens, it's going to be too late. And once you make change, some changes don't go back. And especially when it comes to power, nobody who has power is going to let it go. So for those of us who really don't want to empower, we just want to live and enjoy life and enjoy people, it makes no sense. For others, they get it totally. But keep your eye out for destructive philosophies. I can't give you advice one way or another. I just hope you can have a discerning spirit and figure your way out. But hope this helps, and God bless you.